My name is Sofia Papaspirou, and I'm talking on behalf of Mrs. Kastriti, Katsimardou, and Panariti, curators of the exhibition 21 Allios, the Greek War of Independence in Playmobil Dioramas. The exhibition was designed by the National Historical Museum in 2019 as part of the 200-year celebration since the Greek War of Independence. The goal was to present this historical period to the general public through a creative, intelligible, and entertaining way. Starting with the period of Ottoman rule, the exhibition narrates the most important moments of the Greek War of Independence, from the founding of Philiki Eteria in 1814, the beginning of the revolution in the Danubian Principalities and the Peloponnese in 1821, the struggle of land and at sea, to the naval battle of Navarino, the establishment of the independent Greek state, and the assassination of its first governor, Ioannis Kapodistrias. The exhibition displays about 30 dioramas and 90 individual figures of Greeks, Ottomans, and Philhellenes. The inspiration for the creation came from original works, engravings, and paintings of the 19th century from the collections of the National Historical Museum. Based on this, the collectors Giorgos Angelidis, Denis Vangopoulos, Angelos Giakoumatos, Vasiliki Fati constructed the dioramas, and Stelios Milonas created the individual figures. Up to 8 to 10 different components of different original Playmobil units were needed for the composition of each collectible figure. They all worked voluntarily using materials from the personal collections. The exhibition features over 1,300 original collectibles. It was presented for the first time at the National Historical Museum in Athens. In 2021, it will travel to Sparta, Mytilene, and Volos, while in 2022, it will travel to Cyprus. It is one of the most successful exhibitions in the history of the museum. The scene we chose to present to you today is the Sortie of Mesolonghi, which took place in April 1826. Mesolonghi was one of the most important cities of the revolution due to its strategic location in the western mainland. After continuous failed attempts to capture the city, the Ottoman general Recep Mehmed Pasha, also known as Kütahya, began to besiege Mesolonghi in April 1825. In October, Kütahya was reinforced by the army of the Egyptian Ibrahim Pasha. The situation of the besieged kept deteriorating as they did not receive sufficient help from land or sea. However, despite being in dire straits, they refused to surrender. When all hope was lost and it was clear that the city defenders would starve, an operation was proposed to leave the city and break through the enemy lines. The sortie was decided on the night of April 10, 1826. About 600 ill and wounded were left behind to defend themselves to the end. The rest, women, men and children, took up arms and attempted a coordinated attack. However, the plan had become known to the Ottomans. Most Greeks were killed or were taken slaves, sold to the slave markets of Constantinople and Alexandria. After the fall of Mesolonghi, the future of the revolution was bleak. However, the heroic end of the city turned the biggest defeat into a victory. It mobilized the Philhellenic movement and accelerated the diplomatic and military intervention of the great powers. Mesolonghi, with the desperate sortie of its defenders in April 1826, became a symbol of freedom and self-sacrifice. The diorama of Angelos Giakoumatos presents the exact moment of the sortie. The composition is inspired by the painting of the same name by Theodoros Rizakis, with the addition of the explosion of the house of the primate, Christos Kapsalis, where those who remained in the city had found refuge. The crowd of figures coming out of the walls with their swords and their sacred symbols in their hands reflect the intensity of the moment, as described in the verses of the poet Dionysius Solomos.